So, in a recent video, I said something along the lines of I wish I could sync the internal components of my Razer PC with my Razer peripherals through Razer Synapse. A lot of Razer. Then almost immediately after posting that video, as is whenever I learn something relevant to the video, I figured out that actually you can sync the internal components RGB to the RGB of your computer's peripherals, your Razer mousepad and stuff. Of course, this microphone is the only thing that doesn't have it, so the green is annoying. Red. Okay, so this video is called The Problems with RGB for a reason, because it's very obvious now that there's two pieces, I should say, that are not changing color with the rest of the part. Piece number one is obvious: the Razer logo on the front of the case and the bottom underglow. Now, that's not what this video is about. That I knew buying that case when I chose this case over the Leon Lee Piso 11 Dynamic Razer Edition. I knew I would be getting green only, but this case is just so much nicer. The trade-off is worth it. And with a little bit of modding, I could probably get it to light up different colors, because it is pretty simple. It's just a little light behind it that I can change out, and the underglow is the same. I could actually change it out for a red one that I happen to have. I'm not going to do that because this case was hella expensive. But you have also noticed the RAM. The RAM is red. The rest of the system and its peripherals are changing colors through spectrum cycling. So, why is the RAM red and everything else isn't? Well, let's start off with the story. So, it all starts in Razer Synapse and Aura Sync. If you don't know what Aura Sync is, Aura Sync allows you to sync your Aura compatible, aka ASUS lighting compatible lights. So you can sync your RGB headers for like your fans and stuff like that, and your motherboard's lights, and your graphics card. In this case, I'm using an Asus ROG Poseidon, 1080 Ti Poseidon. Best 1080 Ti you can buy, just saying. And it allows you to sync those. But I'm not using an Asus motherboard. I didn't think this through when I was originally building it. The only thing I thought about was chipset. And I happened to have on hand an X570 board from MSI. Mistake number one. Now, not using MSI generally isn't a mistake, but in this case, it absolutely was, because MSI's board uses its own software to control its lights. You have to use MSI's Dragon Center. So I will open that now. So now we have Dragon Center, Asus Aura Sync, and Razer Synapse open at the same time, which is a little bit annoying. But it's red, blue, and green, which I always thought was interesting, and I just noticed that now. So, no, I'm not just going to say that I sync them up by just clicking the same colors at the same time. Actually, in Razer's software, it has something called Chroma Connect. Chroma Connect allows you to connect other apps that are lighting enabled to Razer Synapse. But Asus, of course, doesn't like participating in this. MSI, the Dragon Center, was already integrated when I got in, but that's not necessarily a commendation of them. More or less, we'll get to that later. But Asus decided, no, we're not going to participate with Razer Synapse. So I had to download a third-party software. There was a plugin that I found on GitHub that was super sketchy, but it actually, after a couple restarts, did end up working, which allowed me to sync Asus Aura Sync to Razer Synapse. Now back to Dragon Center. While yes, it does appear that MSI Mystic Light is integrated right away, sadly that wasn't the case. I had to go into Dragon Center, turn off Mystic Light, restart the PC, turn on Mystic Light, turn it back off, turn it back on, and yes, I had to do all of this because I did this procedurally. Turn off the PC, finally restart it, and then finally, when I turned it back on, opened up Mystic Light, and opened up Razer Synapse, Mystic Light worked. So I see the Cooler Master Cooler, the fan in the back, and the motherboard's lights, well, except for one of them, which is still red for some reason, are all lighting up with the spectrum cycling. Now, you're probably wondering, well, doesn't the RAM go with Dragon Center? well, as I would have thought, that since it's connected to the motherboard, the RAM would go with MSI Mystic Light. That is also apparently not the case, because Asus Aura Sync took control of the RAM and naturally the graphics card, which I expected. Although, I mean, seriously, Asus, why doesn't your graphics card, which is connected to my motherboard, just work with the motherboard software? I don't know. But that's the point. So the RAM is now Asus Aura Sync, along with the graphics card. So I had to link Asus Aura Sync to get the RAM and the graphics card working, and it worked originally, but when it first worked, MSI Mystic Light didn't work, so I had to do that whole thing with MSI Mystic Light to make it work. And then, of course, when I got MSI Mystic Light to work, Asus Aura Sync was like, I'm gonna half work. I'll make you a deal. I will work with the graphics card, but that RAM that I stole from MSI Mystic Light, that's not gonna work anymore. So now the RAM is just red. Or, you might be thinking, well, can't you unsync it from Aura Sync? Well, yes, I can. Now, when it's unsynced, you think, okay, Dragon Center gets it now. Nope, Dragon Center doesn't get it now. It just goes to Rainbow. And you might think, well, Rainbow, aren't you doing spectrum cycling? I don't think that's what it's supposed to. Actually, no, that's not even Rainbow. That's not even the spectrum cycling anymore. Now it's just every color. What? Okay, that doesn't work either. Now it's, at least before it was doing its default, like, rainbow effect. Now it's just, like, hot and cold. What are you doing? Okay, so it's now glitching out entirely, so let's resync it to the graphics card, sync them together. Yes. And the graphics card goes green, that goes red, then that goes back to cycling, and that goes red again. What is happening? This is the problem with RGB. RGB by itself is not a problem. RGB is beautiful. This whole setup is basically based on RGB. That's why I actually got the black desk to make the RGB stand out more. But oh my, man, this is annoying. Why does every single company have to have its own little ecosystem? But it's not about, every company can have its own software. That's fine. But why? When there is a software to unify them, can't you just let me use it? Can't we just make a rule? Whichever motherboard you have, everything links up with that. Anything connected to your motherboard should work with your motherboard. Even the RAM should not be taken over by Aura Sync. The graphics card, I mean, I understand it more than the RAM, but still, you're connected to the MSI Mystic Light motherboard. Why? And I think this is Asus here. I think this is an Asus problem. Because, like I said, MSI Mystic Light was happy to be integrated to Synapse. Asus, I had to download a third-party thing to get them to work, and it was still as finicky as you could see by the RAM, which I will have to restart the system and work again. But that's the problem with RGB. RGB is amazing. Buy it, just default, lights are cool. But this is obnoxious. So, I have a question for you guys. One sec, let me grab the thing and we'll take a vote, I guess. This, my friends, is the Asus ROG Crosshair 7 Hero. This board is truly amazing. It's got, okay, all the features, you get it. It's a cool board. But the craziest thing on here, this board had an OC dial. This board has an LN2 mode. If you don't know what LN2 stands for, it stands for liquid nitrogen. And then that's liquid N2, which is nitrogen. The molecule nitrogen is two nitrogen elements together. Whatever. That's the point. Enough chemistry. But it does have an LN2 mode. So this board is prepared, to say the least. It's got the same power delivery. It's got more fan headers on the top, which is what I need for this, because I'm using a pump fan header, which kind of is annoying as hell. And it just has generally more features than that board. But there's one major difference. Okay, and I do have to show you this. Just look at all that I/O. I love that. Asus does this on a lot of their boards. My Threadripper board does the same. They have all the USBs together. Now, yeah, some USBs might not be able to be plugged in if you have a big USB, but it's just so easy. That's the point. This one also has a clear CMOS button. Something I actually needed on here, I had to use the jumper. But, here's the big question. First of all, is that a hole? Is it supposed to be there? Whatever. This board is already built. It already has the 3900X. It's compatible. No BIOS update needed. X570 from MSI. It works. But I have to have a third software, MSI Mystic Light, to even make the RGB work. This board, however, is X470, but I could use Asus Aura Sync, which will, with the third party, switched into Razer Snaps. So do I take the associated risks with redoing this whole PC? And no, I would not even make it a video. It would just be too obnoxious. I would just sit here and do it one night. Switching out the motherboards, trying it again, and hoping I don't break anything. And hoping this motherboard works. There's like a hole in the chipset. I don't know if that's supposed to be. It's like a perfect hole though. I think that's supposed to be there. I know, I've never seen that. I have to check another chipset. Whatever. Do I switch out the boards? I lose X570. I lose PC, because this is my editing PC now. It's going to be so much better than my 9800X for editing. So, do I sacrifice things like PCIe Gen 4 and those super fast NVMe SSDs I could be using, and the fact that it's already built for a motherboard that just looks cooler, is cooler, and, is Asus? That's the real question here. And the sad thing is, I might be having to do this for one reason. RGB. That is absolutely obnoxious to me. I don't even think it has lights on the bottom, like that one does. But whatever. No, it has something. Oh, it's got a lot of holes in it. But this is the point. So, I don't know if I'm going to switch out. You guys can tell me in the comments below, and I'll do it if you guys really want me to. And if you want me to make a video, it'll be bad, but if you want it, I'll do it. I always play with the motherboards when they're in my hand. That's probably what breaks half of them. That's the point. So the problem with RGB is the software. It's almost never the hardware. That's the point. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys kind of enjoyed this little chat video. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.